appreciate that. And good evening, everyone. Again, great to see so many faces I'm familiar with, and then great to see new faces too. We're going to talk about the new guidebook, right? Second edition of the guidebook. Hopefully you all received it last week, and maybe you've even had a chance. I know Larry's already sent me some edits, so I know that most of you, hopefully all of you, received that and have that close to you as we talk about that, and that'll be the bulk of what we're going to do tonight. But it's just one cog in the wheel of success, right? We talk about pre-engagement and engagement and post-engagement. We have a financial planning engagement here that we've compressed into 4, 5, 6 sessions. We attempt to cover an awful lot in those meetings. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, and it is, not only for you, but for the client. But so it is important, right? The guidebook's important. We're going to talk about tonight. But again, it's one piece of the puzzle, right, of the perfect coaching engagement, or at least what we started to refer to as the perfect engagement. What is that? It's just, frankly, what we expect or hope that you're providing, or that the organization is providing each and every client consistently. And basically, these are the watch outs, these are the milestones. They all work together to enhance the relationship that you have with your client and for the client's experience with us, right? So this is just doing all the right things, and it's broken down into pre-engagement. There's a couple, 4 items under engagement, and then post-engagement. So let's talk about that. So timely scheduling, right? What is that? Well, the perfect engagement begins with signing client agreements promptly, right? And contacting your client within 1 week of assignment, right? That's a request that we make of you. Some occasions that goes 2 weeks, or we check in because we use alerts. We haven't heard anything, then maybe we'll check back in and it's been 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? Promptly means 1 week of assignment, schedule session 1, right? Now you're scheduling session 1, that may be out a week or 2. You're basing that on the client's availability. But getting the paperwork back to us and contacting the client is number 1 here, okay? Suitable prep. How many times have you heard, right? Have we heard in our business, know your client? My gosh, FINRA's got a rule, right? Know your client. And it's no different here. You've got to thoroughly review that financial wellness check information. 30 questions and a whole lot more information there as well. But 30 questions that essentially mimic the guidebook. So if they've done really poorly in the banking questions, guess what? You probably are going to need to spend extra time in banking in the guidebook. You probably didn't know that there was that relationship, but it's not perfect. But we try to pull 2 questions out of every topic. There's 14 topics and there's 30 questions. So it lines up pretty well. Know your client. And suitable prep doesn't mean just looking at the financial wellness check. Those paraplanners, we call them paraplanners. To the client facing, we call them financial care team members. I know it's a lot easier to call them paraplanners. You're used to that, but they go through a lot of work to understand the client, to screen the client, to prep the client, and then all that information is made available to you. So if you don't get into your confidential folder, well before your first meeting to really understand who you're going to be meeting with, then that's not a perfect engagement. You need to get into that confidential folder well in advance. I used to go through the financial wellness check and circle the weaknesses because I knew I needed to attack those during our engagement, okay? Setting course. There's a lot to accomplish in session 1 in particular, but also in session 4. And if you get behind in session 1, you're playing catch up the whole rest of the time. And what does that mean? If you're trying to keep it to 4 sessions, that means you're going to leave something out. And it could be really important. Just because it's not in her hot topics doesn't mean it's not really important. It could cause her a lot of angst later on. So being prepared, right, pre-engagement really helps with setting the course during the engagement. And setting course is about breaking the ice, right? You can't just dive in and start asking financial questions, right? You need to break the ice. You need to introduce yourself. You need to summarize what the engagement's going to look like in broad strokes. You don't want to spend an hour doing that, but Set course. What are we going to be doing together? And hey, let's start with those things that are keeping you awake at night. One of the changes in the guidebook is we've moved that to topic 1. So it's a really nice segue from summarizing what you're going to do and then jumping in and providing that value right away. So the next item is address hot topics and pull credit reports. I don't know about you, but when I was an advisor, I retired last June, if you didn't know, to run Wings full time. But as an advisor for 15 years, I don't think I ever pulled a credit report for a client. I'm not sure I ever pulled my credit report. But if you're not pulling credit reports during session 2, you have absolutely got to do this. It is so valuable to the client, and we found that about 90% of the clients do not pull their credit reports, don't know how to pull their credit reports. In fact, have never pulled their credit reports. You've got to do that with the client. So addressing the hot topics, which is session 1, and pulling the credit report in session 2 are absolutely critical. And here's the other great thing that those do for you. They build trust immediately. Let's think about this. A perfect stranger is entrusting you with their financial life, and they've met you for how long? 90 minutes or less? I mean, it's about building trust these first 2 sessions. So we put hot topics. If you address some of those and provide some value right up front, they're already going, saying to themselves, you can hear it, right? You've probably been told this. Oh, I'm so glad we talked about this. Boy, is that a weight off my shoulders, right? And so now you got them. They're yours. They're yours for the whole engagement, right? Same thing with pulling the credit report. When you do that and you go through that with them and the decedents, and you find problems that you can fix, that you identify, they love you because, again, you're providing value in a way that nobody's ever done that for them before. So if you're not used to pulling credit reports, get some practice. It's outlined in the guidebook how to do it. If you haven't done it in a while, please do it. Learn how to do it very quickly and efficiently with your clients. It will pay huge dividends. Number 5, we're going to talk about this much more, but using the guidebooks, or sorry, number 6, using the guidebooks and all 12 checklists. We'll talk about that next. And then number 7, 4 to 5 sessions, 90 minutes. Look at I have spent dozens and dozens of sessions with some clients. Usually you're not going to get those clients, right? 4 to 5 sessions will normally do it. Remember, we're the emergency room for financial trauma. We're not doing retirement planning here. We're stopping the bleeding. We're finding out what her hot topics are. We're trying to assure her of what that she has some understanding of her current financial situation, and then what her options are and some of the things she needs to do. That's still a lot to do in 5 sessions. 4 sessions minimum, 5 sessions normally. And you know what? If you got to go 6 sessions, well, then you go 6 sessions or more. Do the right thing for the client. These are just guidelines. I don't know if I wanted to say anything more there, except that there are times when you send in the outcome report, and I'm sure, Andrea, we all appreciate you being honest on those. But when you say that your client, I worked with this client, Mary, and we worked for 2 sessions, and she's good to go. And then we look back at Mary and see that she had a financial wellness check score of 60, which means there was a whole lot to cover there. That's a red flag. There is no way you can cover all the checklists in 2 sessions. You just can't. And even folks with scores of 90 or better, I assure you, if you go through the checklist, you will find other areas, you'll uncover other areas that they haven't taken care of. And so think about 4 to 5 sessions, 90 minutes each or more. That will provide them the experience that we've promised them. Number 8, we're in a post-engagement. Provide the client a summary and action items. Sometimes I feel like we should script this out for you because there is a lot to do in session 4, right, or session 5. You've got all of the topics. Then you're also trying to close down shop with them and encourage them to take the survey when Wings for Widows send them the survey, so we can provide you some feedback. So it's it's important during this particular part of the engagement that you provide the client a summary. And I'll tell you why, right? It goes back to, tell them what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you told them. It's sort of that idea. You set the table in the beginning, close it right at the end. It's been great working with you, Mary. We accomplished this, and this. You still got a few things to go. Here are the action items. Are get some confirmation on that. A survey is going to be coming out, blah, blah, blah. Close it up, right? Don't leave them hanging. And always, if you don't know this, they can always come back with questions. They can always come back for questions, either to us or to you. I would make that open. Many of them don't. They have the guidebook. Maybe they're in a place where they are comfortable looking it up themselves, but it's okay if they come back and ask us questions. And then lastly, the perfect engagement, a timely outcome report, and the reason that's important is because, again, if you let it go 2 or 3 weeks, we don't send the client the feedback survey, which is so important. It's where we can provide you some feedback. Our financial care team gets feedback, and that's where we get our testimonials for marketing purposes. So if we don't hear from you for 2 or 3 weeks and you kind of forget to send in the outcome report, we'll remind you. But when you get that reminder, please send it in, because we don't send anything to the client until we get that. So again, just being timely in their communications. Okay.
And I want to add to that too, that outcome report is the main way that I know how it went for you. I read every single word, every suggestion you have. What could you have used that you didn't have? Any concerns you have? If there are concerns, I sometimes ask you to set up some time with me. So that's your way to communicate to me as a coach and to the organization, really, just how you're feeling about how it went, what sort of outcomes the client had. So we kind of know what's happening out there. And then finally, it tells me if you're available or not. And if, for instance, you need to you're going on a 3-month safari or whatever, just please hold off on any new clients until September 1. And then I put that in my spreadsheet, and you won't get that. So it's an important feedback tool for me as well.
It closes the loop on a perfect engagement. So thanks, Andrea. Yeah, it's so important. And then Andrea, if there's something in there that I should know, she flips them to me all the time. Right? Like somebody's asking for this tool, or somebody's wondering about this. Somebody has an edit. Well, I want to hear that, right? We want to give you the very best possible tools. So Andrea shares those with me as well. So we really appreciate those. And some of you take just a ton of time explaining how it went. And we just love hearing that. We may not reach out every time to you personally, but we do read them. So thank you. Anything else, Andrea? Okay. Well, this is what you're all here for tonight. I'm pretty happy with this one. The first one I wrote over COVID, I had it built all the checklists, and we had kind of time tested the checklist in 2019. And we were going to spend another couple of years testing everything. But when the pandemic hit and we suddenly had to go virtual, it's like, oh no, we've got to put something in everybody's hands so that there's some common bond between coach and client. And so I wrote the first book in about 90 days, and then I've had a couple of years to write this one, and I'm collecting information along the way. So I'm really glad that that is done, and we'll probably stick with this other than some minor edits. It won't change too much. But before I get into this, I first want to shout out, it was great to see Laura Richards is on. I think Kevin Lamb is next, is Saturday, and then Otto Rivera. I'm not sure if Otto is on, but all three of them volunteered to contribute to the guidebook. And each took a different section and helped me with that. And I incorporated probably 95% of everything they gave me, if I didn't already have it there. So it was great. And I just want to give those three in particular a shout out for their help. And they're actually, if you open up I guess 2 pages in, they're listed there. There's a thank you to them in the guidebook. So the next guidebook, when Andrea asks you for input, that'd be great. I love getting more eyes on the book, the better. And I was going to save this for later, but I already heard from Larry Albert. He already had a couple of edits, and one of them I knew about, but Larry, I didn't know about the miss in the form, the missing utilities insurance in the form. So awesome. So folks, if you are using the book and you just see a miss, circle it and circle back with Andrea or me, and let me know that and we'll save that. We have a little edit file, and we'll make sure that gets corrected. Okay. So again, appreciate all of that and future feedback as well. So as you just heard, the guidebook is not an optional tool, right? It's part of the perfect engagement. It is the only tool, right, that you should be using during coaching engagements. You don't need planning software. If you're using Navaplan or Money Guide Pro, you're missing the point of what we do. We are not providing retirement planning. And to use the software for really something else, I mean, yes, you can get a net worth out of that, but I just don't see it. I don't see the need for it. Otherwise, we would have rolled it out. Pretty old school here. I suppose you could always go back to it to do some proofing, but that's not what we do. Again, we're about stopping the bleeding, providing a window of clarity around their current situation. We don't need retirement planning software to do that. You can use a napkin, right, to compute cash flow, which is pretty critical to do with our clients. So everything you need to know and review with the client should be in the guidebook. I would venture to say it's in the guidebook. If you need a worksheet, we have those too. You'll hear about those. There's a whole plethora of resources waiting for you and available to you all. And we shared that with you in the orientation, and we'll share it again with you tonight. You don't have to recreate forms. It takes too much of your time to reinvent the wheel. So please use what we have, and in particular, the New Widow's Guidebook to Financial Wellness. Look at, there's 4 reasons we use this book. It's not because I wrote it, okay? That's not important at all. It's just that it provides a consistent, exceptional client experience if everyone is reading off the same sheet of music, right? If everyone's using the same roadmap, probably a pretty decent roadmap, right? It ensures that we cover the topics most relevant to widows and that frankly, nothing gets missed. And that's why the checklists are so important, right? So that nothing gets missed. Provides you a reference or resource on topics that you may not be familiar with. I have heard so many times, Chris, I didn't know that. I'm glad that was in there. I mean, this is something I can take back to my practice. That's a great way to kind of think about assets or estate planning or banking, right? The order that banking should be done. I'd never really thought about that before. I get that all the time. So the book, what's in here, was written for widows, not for all of your clients. It was written for a widowed person. So there's probably material in here that you're not as familiar with. And then, of course, it provides the client with a resource when you're no longer with them, right? So it's really important that while you are with them, that you're getting your client comfortable with it by digging into it, right, with them. Here's just a few points on the guidebook that I think about, right? Think about this. If you don't use the guidebook, why should the client? If you don't use the guidebook, why should your client? Do you let the client tell you what to talk about? This would be a great breakout session because I love to talk about this. Yes, it's important to listen to the client, but you let them tell you what to talk about, or do you take charge as the professional, drive the conversation, and cover all the checklists? Our clients don't drive the engagement. We're sensitive to our clients, but they don't drive the engagement. They're with you in a coaching engagement because they trust you as the professional to drive the engagement and using the guidebook as your common roadmap. So again, not everything may apply, but everything needs to be addressed. For example, I don't know how many times I've talked about this, but if a client says, "Oh, I don't have any banking questions," we can just skip that. Do you? Do you just skip it? Do you skip that checklist? I hope not. Do you use the checklist to fact check the client, what the client is telling you. I do. You simply respond, hey, that is great to hear, Mary. Let me just ask you a few questions about that. And I promise you, what you'll likely discover is that there is much more that can or should be done. Again, we say it all the time. Remember, a client doesn't know what they don't know. You're the boss. Take charge. And finally, I've said this before. It's worth saying again. You cannot complete a coaching engagement in less than 4 sessions. Most deserve 5 or more. 4 sessions is a minimum. These are guidelines, but it's a minimum. Hitting all the checklists is the goal. And again, that takes about 4 sessions to do. Okay. As I've said before, we cram a lot into session 4. So if you need to go to a session 5, that's perfectly okay. All right, let's get into the book. We're halfway through our hour and we're in really good shape here. So let me click the slide and we'll pop into, if you've got your book close, I would just invite you to flip through it if you haven't already. If you have, you probably already know all this, but we'll walk through it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. I would encourage you, right? Know your client, know your tools, read the book. Okay. There is a lot of good stuff in here. I think I got most of it right, Larry? There's a lot of good stuff in here. So I highly encourage you, before you take on your next client, read the book. And this year I added illustrations, so it's actually a little bit more fun to read. We actually have a license through that illustrator. I'm really excited about it. We have it for 5 years, and I just love the illustrations. So we got a pretty good deal on it. So anyways, illustrations in the book. And then every progress checklist got revised. If you think you know them by heart, think again. Review the checklist. And you can lay the book side by side if you want to. I wouldn't encourage it. It's a lot of waste of time. So if you open the book, expanded table of contents, I tried to make it a little easier to find things. And in this edition, the page numbers are actually in the right spot. They're on the outside of the pages. So it's a lot easier to find than crammed into the margin on the inside, which was the printing error, and we never corrected it. So pages on the outside, expanded table of contents, easier to find things. And you'll notice that we added a glossary. We'll get to that later. So session 1. Already mentioned this, we moved the hot topics from last to first. Very first thing, it's a great segue, building trust right in the beginning. It's just the way it should be done. And I would just mention around hot topics, you don't have to solve them all. You only got 90 minutes. You don't need to solve, there may be 5 hot topics there. It may take you several sessions to get to them all. But if you can solve one, particularly if it's the first one or the biggest one, and if you see a number of hot topics, you can say, let's just review your hot topics. I understand you're kind of concerned about this. Looks like you have some concerns about this. Anything else? Review those with them and then dive in, solve 1 or 2. It just locks the key on your engagement. Okay, you've won this client. Topic 4, if you go to page 7, I've added help with spouses' emails. We get this all the time. What do I do with my spouse's emails? What do I do with my spouse's smartphone? What do I do with my spouse's, this or that? And I've tried to address those in this edition. So help with spouse's emails, little blurb on that. And topic 5 is about my spouse's estate. I really expanded this through some illustrations, some charts, some graphs. It's so important. And we had a breakout session, the last Coach's Corner. In our breakout session that I was in, the question was, are you doing this? Are you talking about your spouse's estate? Does your client understand what's hers, what's his, right? Or vice versa, depending on who you're working with, right? And what's theirs? And are they in a, community property state? And, laying that foundation, because we touch on it throughout the guidebook. So it's really important to not skip over this, because it's going to keep haunting you throughout the rest of the sessions. And so I've spent a lot more time trying to capture the essence of that conversation in just a few pages, okay? But it's worth spending some time on that, pages 8 through 14, topic 5, before you move on to the other sessions, okay? That's it for session 1. Session 2, Again, I'm not going to go through every page and every change. In topic 1 around credit, there's some minimal changes. Most of that stayed the same. I get asked a lot, about homework. Like there's this section around the things you can do to protect yourself against identity theft. I'm not looking at my book, so I'm looking at the slide, but um, there's all those little blocks. Like, are we supposed to, I've been asked, are we supposed to go through there and go through all that with them? And it's like, no, that would take forever. Ask them though, say, hey, before we meet again, because it comes at the end, why don't you read through this and circle 5, right? That's sort of the assignment. Find 5 things you can do right now to keep yourself safer than you are today. And it makes it fun for them. It's not really homework, right? But it is. But it makes it kind of fun. And then you could start up when you get with them next time. Well, which ones did you choose, and just kind of see what they did. Anyway, so session 2, topic 1, credit, minimal changes. Topic 2, my important documents. I did pages 42 through 43. I did add the table, how long to keep documents. Some of this document information was back in an appendix. And basically what I did, if one of the recommendations from my coach helpers was, hey, if it's good enough to be in an appendix, maybe you could cut down on the volume of the book, right? It just went to 255 pages. Maybe you could cut down on the volume of the book and incorporate that in the content of the book. So I did. So I added that table up front under important documents. I get asked all the time, well, how long should we keep these documents? So pretty good table there for you. Also topic 2, page 47, cancel recurring memberships, prescriptions, subscriptions added. I was looking at this and just doing a little bit of math. It's amazing how much stuff out there, looking at my own budget on all the stuff that's recurring and all the stuff that costs us money, that if I lost my spouse, what would I get rid of? It's like so much stuff that I don't need or would cancel because my wife is gone. So I added that, and I think it's important to just make a note of that, and it's in the checklist. Page 48, changing utility accounts, brand new. It's not something that we talked about, but it is one of those first things you ought to do. And there's kind of a methodology to changing over the utility accounts to their name. Some utilities will do that. Some will make you close the account under the spouse's name and open up a new one in your name, which is not a big deal, but it's just another thing to add to their list. So changing utilities, page 51, what do I do with my spouse's passwords? Here we go again. And page 52, what do I do with my spouse's smartphone? So those have been added, those sections. Okay, that's session 2. Stay on schedule here. Session 3, topic 1, claiming benefits. A lot of edits. Try to just update areas, especially under employer benefits. I went ahead and described every one of those benefits. I used to just list them, pages 60 through 68. Now I've actually spelled out what are the benefits, so that when you ask about something, if a client were to ask about an employer benefit, she actually knows what she's asking about. So I expanded that. Topic 2, managing my money flow. I brought all the inherited spouse IRA Post-Secure Act information. It used to be an appendix. I brought all that in. There's a lot there. And the way that laws change, it's, I'm afraid it's going to change, just as quickly as the IRA age changed, right? So, as far as I know, that those laws have not changed. I think we're still good on inherited spouse IRAs and all of those options. You see anything there? If you're an IRA or Roth conversion expert, you see anything wrong, please let me know. Also, page 94, I added mortgage considerations. I thought this was really important because, as you know, one of the first thoughts, right, of someone who loses a spouse, particularly, right, the breadwinner, is what am I going to do? What income do I have to pay the mortgage? Right, it's probably their largest expense. So I wanted to add some guidelines around mortgage considerations. Gives them some options, some things to talk about, some things to ask you about, but just a little bit more information there on page 94. And then emergency fund, it was an appendix. I moved it up to this topic 2, page 99. Okay, nothing new around emergency funds. Everyone should have one, right? But not always possible. But that's all addressed in topic 2. Topic 3, understanding my banking. Lots of edits, additions, updates, especially again under using a state checking account. That's page 105. Again, ties back. Remember I said if you don't talk about it in session 1, it'll come back and haunt you. This is just one of those obvious places. If you're going to set up an estate checking account, you need an EIN. How do you get that? IRS, blah, blah, blah. So that's all here in topic 3. And topic 4, understanding my investments. I updated the tables. I think I did update some expected returns. Yes, I know they change. Try to provide a large enough range to kind of capture expected returns for some of the asset classes. But that's where I've added the inherited tables and added the inherited Roth account information. That's where you'll find that understanding my investments. I could have had the Roth under when we first introduced rollovers and IRAs, but I broke it up so it wasn't too much at one time. So it's under my investments. If as you're doing it, you want to cover any inherited Roths, well, you know where it is. Just flip down to session 3 and nail it at the same time. It's up to you. That's why that's a great example of why it's so important to know this guidebook, right? I know we're going to talk about it in session 3, but I'm already on that subject. I'm just going to talk about it now. So what do? You dig in, you tell the client, turn to page 129, and you go through that together. Hey, we're going to talk about your inherited Roth IRA. Here's all the information, but let's go through that. Getting into the book with your client is so important. Session 4, topic 1, taking ownership of my assets. I really expanded the whole real estate piece, because of community property states. For one, I try to ignore most of that. We're all aware that those states offer a slightly different take at times, but I've expanded around real estate and really expanded around vehicles with scenarios, pages 138 and 140. I don't know that, there's no place on the internet where you can go look for that. This is my own understanding. If you don't, when you review that, because here's what happens, right? What do I do with my husband's car or my wife's car? I don't need 3 cars. What do I do with those assets? What does that mean? It brings you right back to the probate estate, right? The estate question. Well, are we going to need to sell them to pay the creditors? You can't just sell the cars, right, and pocket the money unless they're titled in your name or they're jointly titled. But what if the vehicle's titled in the spouse's name, the decedent's name? So I try to create some various scenarios on what you might want to do with the vehicle. And if you read through those, hopefully that'll be helpful to you and hopefully to our clients, because that seems to come up a lot. And I expanded on my digital assets, added a whole lot more. Thank you very much, pandemic, for giving us so many other places to spend our money online. My list tripled, what I used to have. So that's pages 142, 144. And of course, there's plenty of room for adding additional. Topic 2, understanding my taxes. I just added a little bit there under estate taxes and property taxes. And then topic 3, I expanded around Medicare, pages 160 to 162. And then again, my auto insurance, I added what do I do with my spouse's cars, 168, 169, again, some other edits. So really, again, around what do I do with my spouse's stuff, right? And again, this is if it's titled in that name. Topic 4 is so important. Again, this is session 4. There's a lot here, right? That's why I keep saying, look, if session 4 runs into session 5, then just make it happen, because there's a lot here. And so topic 4, protecting my estate and family. You could spend a whole session just on that. And then topic 5, managing my household, just some minor edits there. But again, every checklist at the end of every one of these topics has been updated, and I like them better. I think they're more, they reflect all the new additions, but I think they're also worded perhaps a little better. Okay. And last on this, I mentioned the glossaries added 196 through 233. That's where the bulk of the extra pages came in. But when you're not there, We've had folks suggest a glossary before. I tried to include an index, but it's too hard. It's just too hard to do through Amazon. So no index this year, but I worked very hard on it. I had an index, but I just couldn't get it into the book. But the glossary is there. It's very complete. I think if you see anything, there, but just, let me know. But just when you're trying to avoid jargon, you can always refer the client back to the glossary, right? I'll just know that that's there so you don't have to explain everything. And then again, the revised appendices. There's a lot of client forms back there for record keeping. List your utilities, list your insurance companies, list your banking companies, right? So look at those appendices, know what forms are there. That's all in the appendices now. And then one of the coaches suggested, we're always asked, how do you find the right financial advisor? So I included a section in there I wrote around selecting the right financial advisor. Okay.